Hey guys, it's EJ Miller, creator and writer over here at Fast Food Horror. Igor Froderick is still away with his ghoul friend for a Valentine's Day weekend, so you just got me for this episode. And I'm very excited about this week's episode. A few weeks back we did H.P. Lovecraft's The Terrible Old Man in our classic horror series. After reading that story, though, I realized there was so much more left to that story. So in this week's installment, we're going to take H.P. Lovecraft's The Terrible Old Man in a direction I'm sure that would make him proud in a very creepy way. So, sit back, relax, and please enjoy our adaptation inspired by H.P. Lovecraft's The Terrible Old Man. Ricci and Silva, they both assured me this would be an easy job. An easy mark. A feeble old man ripe for the taking that lives by himself on the edge of this God-forsaken speck on the map they brought me to of Kingsport. They, Silva and Ricci, had this old coot scouted perfectly, they assured me. A World War II vet, of which side they could not determine, but the townies suspect not for Uncle Sam, who lives by his lonesome on the town's edge on the coast in this decrepit mansion. Shoot, he's so old no one knew his name, let alone his actual age, or remembers him when he was younger than what he is. A pasty, frail, gaunt bag of bones that looked like he'd blow over in a stiff breeze. The townies just call him the Terrible Old Man. They say the old white hair hobbles into town once a week for supplies, then disappears back behind those gnarled trees to his crypt. He doesn't talk to no one, doesn't visit, socialize, or exchange a word with no one. Doesn't dip into the bar for a nip, doesn't flirt or say a kind nothing to the cashier at the shop. None of that. Kids and women cross the street when he comes through, and dogs run to their porches and bark and howl as one as he passes. But get this. This is what hooked me. He doesn't pay for his groceries and such with cash or card, but with honest to goodness gold coins. Gold coins! And where does he get his gold coins? No, not from the bank. They don't know him. Doesn't even have an account. Not from the coin dealer or the pawn shop. Ricci and Silva never even saw him go in there. So that only means he stashes them inside the mausoleum he calls a home. Every townie they talk to swears on their grandma's life. It's just always been that way as far back as even the oldest resident can remember. The Terrible Old Man. So many gold coins that we could all retire to a beach in Mexico and live like princes. That's what Ricci said. We'd be set for the rest of our lives, said Silva. An easy job. In and out. And yet, here I am, shivering and cold, hiding from... The plan was easy. Just after sundown, we'd all depart from town at separate times so not to gain suspicion, and meet in the back alley of Water Street, right behind the old man's home. I'd keep the car running and keep a lookout. They'd walk up the home, quietly make their way in, and convince him to share where he'd stash his coins. Bastards like Silva and Ricci are good at that, convincing people. And then we'd be on our way. That's what we did. We waited till sundown and made our separate ways from town to the alley off Water Street. I was there first, sitting in my car, listening softly to some local sports show. Ricci and then Silva joined me each on foot. Huddled in my car in the dark alley, we watched till the lights came on, then off, room by room in the old mansion, till there was only one left. By the yellow light of an unseen lamp, there we could see the old man seated at a small table by the window alone, chin resting on the tops of his hands placed reverently upon the table, talking to 4 small bottles. There was no one else there. We could see him, plain as the moon in the sky, turning his head, gently talking to each bottle. Feeble and crazy. I started to feel bad for what was about to happen and asked Silva and Ricci to be gentle with the old man before they each made their way from my car and slid into the shadows toward the old man's front door. Minutes later, I watched the old man's head whip up like a hunting dog when he hears a crack of the brush signifying his quarry had moved. I gazed and held my breath as the old man stood, moved his lips and appeared to be speaking lovingly again to the bottles, then moved from the table, away from the window, out of view. The lights of each room, then in succession towards the front door, illuminated the windows of the structure. Minutes passed slowly. I could not see any activity in the window, and could only guess that Silva and Ricci had made their way in and were now practicing their art of convincing the terrible old man to share where his treasure of coins was kept. After an hour, the silence of the night was shattered by shrill screams coming from the house behind the sentinels of gnarled trees. I was concerned. Had they killed him? Had the shock of Silva and Ricci scared him into death's arms? Did all this happen before he told them where his coins were? I told them to be easy with the pathetic old man, to be gentle. My thoughts, though, were broken by movement to the rear of the house. The back door slowly opened inward. Was it Ricci and Silva? Was the deed done? What treasure did they find? How much had the old man stashed away? What bounty had they discovered? I strained my eyes and saw a figure as it emerged from the doorway, backlit by a naked bulb into the moonlight. It was not Silva, nor was it Ricci, but the terrible old man, head tilted to the moon with a hideous smile painted red across his lunar-lit face. I watched as the terrible old man appeared to be chuckling. Then he took the sleeve of his shirt and wiped the red from his face. The blood. The terrible old man then turned back into the doorway, disappearing for a moment, then reemerged into the moonlight, dragging from the home 2 large somethings, I could not tell what, each with one arm, seemingly with ease, through the backyard to the cliff's edge, and tossed each out into the void. I was white-knuckling the steering wheel, What had happened? What went so wrong that this skeleton of a man took down both Ricci and Silva? I went to start the car. I was not going to stay around and find out. The battery was dead, and the clicking of the engine starter gave my position away to the terrible old man. I saw his head whip to the right and his gaze fix upon my position in the alleyway. His yellow-eyed gaze. His eyes were actually yellow. A wicked smile played across his lips as a growl, then a howl, erupted from his lips that pierced the night silence as he opened his mouth wider and wider, exposing rows of pointed teeth. Saliva dripped from his maw as he ran his tongue across his sharpened rows. The terrible old man was not an old man at all, but something entirely different. He started from the rear door at a slow, limping gait, then picked up his speed to a well-muscled long stride, ditching his cane as his complexion darkened with fur. I turned and sprinted blindly out of the alleyway, abandoning the car, breathlessly stumbling in a mad panic. I wanted to be anywhere but there. Which is why I'm here, shivering in a cave along the shoreline, being hunted by that man. No, by that thing that took Ricci and Silva. I'm waiting for the sun to come up and get as far away as I can from that terrible old man.